everybody, this is Terry Lucas of Terrific Creations. I am your chief creative weirdo, and welcome to Quilted Features. Today I have with me Sarah and Kathy of Quilt Basket fame and Cutie Patterns. Welcome, Sarah and Kathy. Tell me a little bit about you.
Hi, Terry. First off, thanks for having us today. I'm very excited that you have us here. This is my mom, Kathy. My name is Sarah, and we are here to talk a little bit about our cutie patterns and our cutie quilts. And I thought maybe first we would just start with a little bit of background, Terry, so you kind of know how we got started. I guess about 8 years ago, I joined the Quilt Basket with my mom, who's owned it for over 30 years, but I was a stay-at-home mom, and it was an opportunity that I couldn't pass up. And as we started working together, we started buying our lines of fabric in 16 SKUs, and we just for ourselves started cutting them into fat eighths because we just wanted to do something a little bit different. And we started packaging them up into what we were calling Cutie Packs. So there was 16 fat eighths in a pack, and they were just cute. So we started going to quilt shows and had them in our store, of course, and our customers loved them, and they just kept buying them. They called them eye candy, and they said, you know, I would buy more and more of these, but I don't know what to do with fat eighths. So unintentionally, we became a pattern company. And we started simply with a table runner and 4 placemats, and it grew into now we're actually able to sometimes even make a queen size quilt using, believe it or not, 16 fat eighths. We have learned that we sometimes need to add borders, backgrounds, sashing, of course, but we really take our fat eighth, which is 9 by between 20 and 22, but we only work in between 8.5 and 20, just to make sure that any customer who has a cutie pack or any other store that's cutting their fat eighths, that the person using the pattern has plenty of fabric and that they won't be short. But we've also been very creative in the way we've been able to use it not in the center of the quilt, but we save our scraps. So maybe we can add it in the border or in many different places.
We try to use as much of the fat eighth as we can. We don't want scraps left over.
Yes. No waste.
That's brilliant. Well, I don't know if either one of you know, but some of us are not scrap quilters. So not having a whole lot of fabric left over actually makes me very happy. And Sarah and Kev, you were saying that you're only 8 years old, and for some reason I thought Cuties was older.
No, actually, it might even be 7 years.
Yeah.
It might be 7 because I don't actually believe I joined the Quilt Basket until my son was 1 and he's 8, sorry. So yeah, doesn't it feel like Cuties have been around forever because they're so much fun, and now we have over
100 patterns.
Right.
You have 100 patterns?
Well, how this started, when we started taking to shows with our patterns, as I was closing down the booth, the other vendors around me would say, can I wholesale your patterns? And I thought, wholesale our patterns? Like, we're doing this just for us, and they're all grayscale. And they said, yeah, that's why we want them, because we can take your patterns into our shop, use our fabrics that we love, and sell your patterns. So we went from a grayscale card to a pamphlet, which is 4 full pages, to a booklet, because we want people to have not only economical, but good instruction. So we have a pattern writer who takes our patterns, and sometimes our samplers and stuff, we just can't fit on an 8.5-inch card. And we want to give you diagrams. We want to give you all the information to be successful. And that's how it grew. So there's over 80 grayscale 8.5 by 8.5 patterns. And now we have pamphlets and booklets to add on to them.
So your patterns are the size of the biggest quilt block that you can cut.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
So
love that. Technically, that could be a template.
Could be.
Yep.
Could be. Yes.
That's okay. That's brilliant. That is really like I just well, I think because you guys have been such a part of my quilting life, for some reason I just thought this was older, but there you go. All right. So do you use cuties for classes? Do you use do you have a club? Like
Yes.
what's going on?
So actually we've used them in a lot of different classes from the very beginner up to more advanced, depending upon the pattern. But we have taught how to use directional fabric using making half square triangles using directional fabric. We have some that have a little bit of applique in them. So whether you want to do machine applique or hand applique, we have one that we have used as a block of the month. That was a booklet, I guess. We used it as a block of the month. So every month it was, you kind of learned a little bit of a different technique. And our biggest thing that we love is our Cutie Club. And actually, if you visit, we have a YouTube channel and I have a video up there. Not only we show you how to roll our cuties if you were interested in doing it like ours, but also a video on how I run our Cutie Club. And once a month, and of course, right now we are doing it virtually, but we were, of course, doing this in person for years. Once a month, we would have our customers come in and I would have a demo board and I would just have a quick demo of what our latest cutie pattern was. I'd show them a new cutie pack or a new line of fabric that came in. Everybody would just come and have a really good time. And at the end of the club, they would get the pattern as part of the small fee for joining. And they would all pick out a cutie pack because if you have a pattern, you need a pack to go with it, of course. And then as it went along, each month they would come with the quilts that they had already completed. So we might be able to see 10 different quilts made out of 10 different fabric collections. So it was just fun. Everybody enjoyed having their coffee together. It was an hour in the morning, so it wasn't super long. You know, it was first thing, and now we're doing it virtually and everybody still loves joining us. And it's actually even growing more because you don't have to be local. So we're getting customers from other states that are even joining. Even we have lots of customers that have actually moved out of the area. So they're happy to be able to see us again through Cutie Club.
Yeah, yes. I do love being able to see you guys on your Facebook lives and seeing what you guys are doing. It's really fabulous. So when you are teaching a class, so you're having a class with a cutie pattern, what does that look like? Do the customers get to choose their cuties for that class? Can they bring well, they're not bringing fabric from home right now, but like they can choose the collection that they want to use and then make the fabric choices for the where things go in the pattern. Is that right?
Yes, so they can choose any cutie pack that they want, which actually makes it more fun. Just because that's the whole point. One of our biggest points of this, why we put it in grayscale, is I want everybody to make the same quilt, but with their personality. And to see it finish is just so fun. But our most popular fabric collection at the time, I'm going to call it, we do provide kits or have kits available just because sometimes customers just want to be able to walk in, grab a kit and leave. And other times they want to come in and they want to choose their own cutie pack and they want to choose their backings and their backgrounds, stuff like that. So we try to make it a simple, economical, easy, quick decision. And another thing that we have heard is because of the way we package our cuties, it's 16 SKUs from a single line of fabric. If there's not 16, sometimes there's only 13 in a line, we will go to that manufacturer's basics and pick some that go with it. But on the cutie pack, it's always the same manufacturer. We label it so they know what the collection is, what the manufacturer is. So you don't have to worry about dye lots. Everything goes together, everything blends nicely. And they don't have to worry about matching things. Like they just grab it off the wall and it's just an easy purchase. Like as they have said, they buy more because they just take it off the shelf.
Yes, yes. And the cellophane is actually reusable.
Yes. And they're cute.
Yes. Yeah. So weird that they're cute like that. How many lines do you have on the website right now?
Oof.
Roughly.
Lots.
Well, okay, okay, better question. Which manufacturers are you carrying, and can people easily navigate around the website to find their favorite collections?
Yeah, so first off, when we put up a fabric collection, we put the Cutie Pack with the fabric yardage if they were ordering it. But on our website, we also have a specific just Cutie collection section. So when they go into Cutie collections, there's a section for kits, there's a section to look at the patterns, and then there's a section where all the Cutie Packs are together, so they can go through them. As far as manufacturers, I work a lot with Island Batik. I do a lot of different, actually designing Cutie patterns and working with Cutie Packs for them for market. So Island Batik is big. We like Moda, Northcott,
Benartex,
Andover. I said Moda already. Timeless Treasures.
Yeah.
So we like to have a wide variety. And I'm a huge batik fan. I also like cottons as well, but I'm a big batik fan. And one of the things when Mom and I kind of joined forces, as I'm going to say, I guess 7 years ago, Mom tends to go a little bit more traditional and I tend to go a little bit more modern. So our store has like a little variety and we've learned to kind of meld those together, which has been super fun. I love it.
Oh, well, it's really interesting because then what happens is quilters of any, if there's something that you like as a quilter, your shop has enough that it's going to be interesting across the board. So from my standpoint, like I've been re-going through something of a solids and modeled phase because I stitch quilting is my thing, right?
Right.
So I could come in and I could find Cutie collections that would kind of meet my needs as a quilter, but also, anybody who likes Civil War prints or, some of the modern collections that we've seen over the last couple of years, like Ruby Star Society and all of that, those collections would be there as well.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Which is the fun.
Yeah. All right. So big question. Do y'all do trunk shows?
Yes, actually. So we have done previously, and this still is available if anybody is interested, but we have the regular trunk shows where we can, figure out how many quilts you want, excess number of patterns to purchase, and we mail it to you, and then you have to mail it back to us. But we actually just started, just because of COVID, it came upon us like brilliant idea. Let's do virtual quilt shows. And we've had quite a few of those where we schedule. We've typically done Friday evenings, but some evening or maybe a weekend morning, whatever our customer wants to do. I think it was about an hour, maybe a little bit over an hour. And they told us what quilts they wanted us to show, what techniques they wanted us to talk about, which kind of meant, like, as I mentioned before, if they wanted the half square triangles with directional fabric, we would pull that quilt out. So if they wanted to see one of our block of the months that we did or something like that. And we talked about the different quilts and how we put them together, where the cuties are used in each quilt, because of course, cuties are used differently in every way possible. More to come too. So it's been actually a lot of fun, and that way they get to show it to their customers, and then they've taken a poll at the end when we're off camera. They take a poll or they send a poll to their customers and say, which patterns would you be interested in for classes? What techniques would you like to learn? What block of the month might you be interested in? And things like that. So instead of just ordering a whole bunch of patterns and not sure which ones their customers have, they have 30 or more customers on a Zoom, and they're able to then take that poll to find out what the customers would be interested in doing. So it's been really fun.
Yeah, and the customers can ask questions, of course, on Zoom.
Yes.
And you can get an idea of what they want. The other thing that's very important, I think, to shops and to us for our quilts, lately shipping is so expensive
And things get
are
lost.
getting lost.
Things are getting lost.
Oh, yeah. They end up in post office warehouses and months later.
They might
Right.
appear.
Christmas gifts we sent out got there in February. I mean, just in general, things are a little scary. This is more economical because the stores get to show many things to their customers, and a lot cheaper because to ship boxes with quilts in is heavy. I just shipped one yesterday that was over $100. So virtually you don't have to do that, the expense, nor one of us worrying about it getting lost.
And we still have the option though, if you want to have a quilt in your store that you want to showcase for a month or a couple weeks, whatever it may be, because that's the one that you're planning for your fall class, let's say. We still have that option, but instead of having 5 quilts or 6 quilts shipped to you,
you can see 20.
Right.
Right.
So-
And that opens up more patterns to your customer base.
Right.
Right.
Which is really fabulous because the patterns are great.
Thank
I've
you.
got 5 here somewhere over there. I have 5.
I can see them. I was going to say the other fun thing about doing the trunk show virtually is I have quite a few that I've made over and over again. Like we would make a new sample out of new fabric for a new show that's coming up. We had 4 of one of my Kaleidoscopes. And so we showed then the customers, sometimes when you see it done on a different fabric, they couldn't even believe it was the same quilt. And that's kind of our fun of the Cuties, but you're not going to want me to ship you 4 quilts of the same pattern, but doing it virtually, I can just show you what it looks like. So that was fun.
Who are your designers?
Well, we have a few designers. We, of course, me,
Right.
my mom,
Of course.
And
Debby
Debby Brown.
And,
Debby
well,
Brown? She designs for you?
Well,
I'm
she's
shocked.
actually part of our cutie collections now. But Debbie and I were driving home from a show when she was doing a handy quilter event for us.
Yes.
And we were 4 hours in the car driving home. Ellen was driving. And as we're driving, she was with me. She was doing that handy quilter part, but she was there listening to all of the customers ask, what do I do with that 1/8? So as we're chit-chatting in the car for 4 hours, we mentioned Cuties hundreds of times. And we started drawing pictures of what you could do with a cutie. We got out of the car and Alan, my husband, said, if I hear the word cutie one more time.
Now, if he really knew what that was going to become now.
But that's actually, that car ride was actually the turning point of going from, we should really have patterns for these, to we are going to have patterns to that. And some of the girls at the shop that worked with me designed a few, but my best story is my 9-year-old granddaughter.
Oh.
Over COVID, we FaceTime once a week at 3 o'clock. And it started with out with Alan reading to them.
It was all the grandkids.
All 5 of them were on it.
So that they could stay connected during COVID.
Alan would read to them. They started reading to Alan. We started playing games. And one of the games we played was Pictionary. And we, of course, chose the words. One of the words had to be quilt. And my granddaughter got the word. And she drew a quilt on a piece of paper and held it up. Well, I took a picture of that quilt and we designed a quilt pattern, a cutie quilt pattern out of her drawing. And it is now
this a new pattern that you're releasing now?
It's called Norris quilt. And when you see our little video, you will see Norris quilt. But I'm very proud of that one because she's 9.
For those of you at home, I'm going to drop their video in here so that you can see all their new stuff. And then I'll pick up the video.
Hi everyone, welcome to our Cutie Collections 2021 trunk show. I am very much looking forward to sharing with you all of our new patterns that we have been able to release in the 2021 year. So first up, I look forward to sharing with you our new cutie pattern. This is called Freeze Frame. And this pattern, we did use a focus fabric as well as a cutie pack. But again, this is called Freeze Frame, and it is just adorable. Next up, one of my favorites. This is called Lily Strings. We did use an Island Boutique fabric collection because we work with Island Boutique quite often. But this is called Lily Strings. And on this cutie pattern, you actually have the option of making it queen, or you could make it a full size. So there's 2 different sizes available on this cutie pattern. Now this next quilt I'm really excited about because my niece Nora was, well, the designer of this cutie quilt. She actually drew it out on paper, and then we were able to make it into a quilt. So this is, of course, named Nora's quilt.
Nora is 9.
And Nora is 9, so we're very proud of her, and we just love how this one came out. So again, this is called Nora's quilt. Another favorite, this is called Cobblestones. And for this pattern, you do need a cutie pack, and this red in the center is an additional fabric that you would need. Of course, the borders as well. But this is called Cobblestones, and I think it came really cute using the Laundry Basket Quilt fabric collection here. And next, this is another Island Boutique line. As I mentioned before, I do work with them quite often. So I designed this one for market last year, actually. And this is called Kaleidoscope. Once again, another Island Boutique fabric collection is one of my designs. This is called Every Which Way. And in this one, I was able to use the cuties not only for my flying geese, but I had enough left over that I did this adorable piano key border going around it. So again, this is called Every Which Way. And this one, I apologize that it hasn't officially been quilted yet, but this is called Lemon Bars. Of course, our original version had some lemon fabric in it, so it led to that. But this is called Lemon Bars.
And Debby Brown, who designed this, is going to be at the end of our video to show you how to quilt it.
Yes. So those were our regular cutie collection patterns that we have that come on the gray cardstock. We also then came out with a few different pamphlets that I'm looking, and one booklet that I'll get to later. But now we're up to some pamphlets that we came out with. This is called Sunrise Sunset. This was designed by my cousin Susanna. And as you can see, we used here from the same fabric collection, we used the light colors as well as the dark colors, which hence gave us the name Sunrise Sunset. Another pamphlet that we just came out with, this was designed by Debbie as well. This is called Early Birds. And look how cute those birds are. Anyway, this is called Early Birds. And it is, well, it's quite adorable.
Some applique also.
Yes. Now the next pamphlet I'm going to show you is one that can also be done in 2 different sizes. So the first one I'm going to show, this is our queen size version, and this is called Diamonds Forever. If you could see, lots of diamonds, Diamonds Forever. And then we also have it in a smaller version, of course out of a different fabric collection, just to show you. And again, this is called Diamonds Forever, and this is one of our new pamphlets that my mom designed. And then we have a brand new booklet that my mother also designed. And this is called Heartful
Happenings.
Heartful Happenings. This is called Heartful Happenings. And this is a booklet that will be coming out very soon. And Grandpa Quilts is very much looking forward to quilting this one. And then I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the one that I have hanging beside me, actually, or behind me, as I should say. This is called Jeffrey's Windows. And this is also a pamphlet that is available in 2 different sizes because we like to be able to give our customers a variety. So the one behind me is queen size. And then we also have this throw size version. But this is the same quilt. If you could see, I'll dip down so you can see it, in 2 different fabric collections, which is one of the reasons why we have so much fun with our Cutie Patterns, because we love seeing these quilts done out of all different fabric collections and seeing how different they all look and how beautiful they all look. So again, this is called Jeffrey's Windows. And then finally, I'd like to share with you this adorable library pillow. We do have a book in here, it just fell out. But we came out with this new pattern, and we like to call it a library pillow because all of my nieces and nephews, or for my parents, their grandkids, each needed a library pillow to snuggle up with their favorite book at night, or cuddle on the couch. So this is called library pillow. And with this pattern, you are actually able to make 3 of the pillow cases using 1 cutie pack and then the backing as well. So I think that is all of our newest 2021 quilt patterns, or quilts, cutie quilts that we were looking forward to sharing with you. I hope you had a wonderful time joining me today. I had a wonderful time sharing our new collections with you, and I hope to hear from you all soon. Bye.
Hello everybody, I'm the guy behind the scenes. I've been handing quilts. You saw my daughter Sarah describe a lot of our new cutie patterns. So I help behind the scene, and I also do some of the quilting. People call me Alan. They can also call me Mr. Kathy. Some people call me Dad. Others call me, the important ones, 5 of them call me Grandpa. And if you're interested in my quilting, you can follow me at Grandpa Quilts on Facebook. So basically, I have a big long arm machine with a computer on it. But instead of just doing basic edge-to-edge computer quilting, I like to do what I call customized quilting. I go from block to block, do the lattices separate, the borders separate, and I do some digital patterns that either I purchased or some I actually designed myself. In addition, I've been getting into ruler work. So you see on this quilt, Jeffrey's Windows, I did this vertical and horizontal ruler work here, and I actually did a nice long straight line quilting to bracket the ribbon candy I did with the computer. That's actually my own design of a ribbon candy. So another quilt I did, again you see a lot of straight lines, also different computerized quilting there, and this way it looks to be like a custom quilt. In fact, my objective is when somebody looks at a quilt that I've quilted, they can say, wow, did they use a computer, or was this done free motion? I don't do free motion. I actually had hoped to be at Fall Market and show a prototype of a ruler system I've been working on that allows me to do long straight lines. I've got actually 3 rulers, an 18-inch, a 24-inch, and even a 30-inch ruler. So that's basically what Grandpa Quilts does, and again, you can follow me on Facebook. It's a nice day here. I could go inside and quilt. However, while we can, I think I'm gonna go golfing. Bye.
I'll pick up our interview on the other side of this. So Nora is 9 and is already a published quilt designer.
Her name is on it.
That is amazing.
She started quilting when she was about 5 or 6. She actually sat on my lap and pushed the button on and off, made her first quilt, and about 6 or 7 months later, it was a Christmas quilt. And over our talk, she said, Grandma, I have to make another quilt because my quilt is Christmas and Mommy will only let me put it on the bed at Christmas time. I need a quilt I can have the rest of the year that I made. So I think she's made 3 or 4 now. She made one for her brother, but the one we're most proud of is her Norris quilt.
Oh, I am so excited. I'm so excited about this. And is she as enthused as you both
Oh, yeah.
are?
Yeah.
Yes, as a matter of fact, they don't live in New York, but one of the trunk shows that we did, they happened to be visiting for the week because we sent the kids to camp together over the summer, which was super fun. But we had her stay. We sent all the other kids and my dad and stuff out so that they weren't here. But we had Nora stay with us, so she was able to do the talk about her quilt at the trunk show, which the customers loved, the other store owner loved. They were all about Nora, and she was in her glory. And I'm just so glad she was able to be here for that, because it meant a lot to her and it meant a lot to us. And it was just perfect.
Now, you guys did blog about this, right? Or you did something on Facebook. Like, is there a link to a video that I can put in there?
Not of our trunk show that we did.
Right. Okay.
But we use Facebook a lot. Facebook and Instagram, we use a lot for a lot of different posts and promoting different things and saying what we're working on and the different classes we have coming up. We don't put the kids out too often, which is one of the things.
Right.
I post more about my animals sleeping on my quilts than my kid.
Well, your kid grew up in the shop a little bit, so I know he was on video, and sometimes it was like, child.
Yes.
Go see your grandmother.
He loves to be part of my Facebook Live videos on Tuesdays. Luckily, he's in school now, so he won't be there. But anytime I have a virtual class or a virtual trunk show, warning, he might be there because he loves people and he loves cuties and he can't wait to have his first job at the shop.
When he was about 5 years old, he would be at the store a few days a week. And when the bell rang, when somebody came into the store, he would run up and say, "Can I help you?"
And then he'd carry their bags out
And
to
then
the
he
car.
would carry their bags.
Oh my gosh, that is the coolest thing ever.
It's probably child labor and we shouldn't do that, but he had a lot of fun.
Little kids in quilt, like I think there is a natural attraction to fabric or to something that is very tactile with small children. So it's, your boy working in the store, that makes perfect sense to me. Nora designing her first quilt pattern. I am sure we're going to have Nora 2 and Nora 3 down the road. Who else has designed for? I know Debbie designs for you rather regularly, and sometimes I've been in the room where I've seen her idea kind of come out, and then sometime later I'll see it in a cutie pattern. Who else is designing for you?
We do. My cousin Susanna,
Yes.
actually, because we're all family here.
Right.
My cousin Susanna has designed quite a few as well. We're super proud of her too. I don't want to say that we're more proud of Nora.
Well, she was an architect major, so she
Right.
has a lot of crisp, clear ideas of what she likes. So she loves, as a matter of fact, when she was sending out her job applications, she said she worked for the Quilt Basket as a designer. So,
Which is true. Like, if she
It's
designed
true.
for you, she was working for you.
well, they said, "Who did you work for before?" And she still does a lot of work for me. So,
And then we do have a few other patterns that some of our, I'm only calling them former employees because we don't have the brick and mortar at the moment. So we're
Right.
our employees. But we do have a few others that some of our other employees have designed previously. So when you get one, you may see other names on them, but it's all part of the Quilt Basket family.
Right. What is your personal favorite cutie pattern?
Norris quilt.
You're gonna say that. I have 3 of mine that I really love and I've done quite a few times just because I really love them, and I'm gonna say they're all tied. Every Which Way, Lily's Strings, and Kaleidoscope are my 3 favorites of my designs so far, but you don't know what I'm gonna come out with tomorrow. So that's for now.
What are you coming out with tomorrow?
Secrets. I have secret projects.
We're always working on the next phase.
Yes. And I'm always working with Island Boutique, as I said. So I do have some secret projects that maybe in the next few months I'll be able to share with you.
Oh, look, you have a second platform. Just say it.
Just
All right.
saying.
Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
Just that we do have a wholesale site. which we will send you the link to. We'll send you the link for our Facebook and Instagram. So anybody, Terry will be able to provide all these links for you guys. I would also just slightly like to mention, because he likes to get credit, our quilts that aren't designed and quilted by Debbie, the ones that Mom and I designed, especially more recently, my father, Alan, also known as Grandpa Quilts, has become quite the long armor, and he is very proud of his, and I have to say, he's doing, and in the beginning, I was a little, Dad, can I have Debbie do this one instead? But he's come a long way, and I am very proud of the thing. So he does also have a Facebook page at Grandpa Quilts, and so if anybody wants to follow along, because he loves to, he's very sociable, and he just loves people and quilting, and he needs a hobby.
Well, and he really seems to have taken to that part of the business. Like,
Well, he has a computer science background.
Right.
He worked in the industry, then he taught computer science in college. So now with the computers, getting those patterns to fit exactly is
Right.
his goal.
Mhm.
Like, it's a challenge for him, and he loves to do it.
He's also been, even though he worked full time, of course, he did the shows with Mom forever. And we have sold long arms for over 15 years. I was going to say more than that, I think. Anyway, so he was always involved in the long arm part, even though it was the education. Like, he would show them how to thread the needle or thread the machine, I should say, like the basics, the technical part of how the machine worked. And then when he retired, he got into this because of the computer portion, which is his set. He really got into it, and he's having a really good time. So it's nice to see him enjoying himself and getting some work done for us at the same time.
right. That I can understand. Yeah, when you've got somebody who can explain the mechanics behind the machine quilting, it certainly does make it a lot easier. And it, as somebody who's learning how to long arm right now, there are a lot of things that go into long arming well, you know, from threading your machine well to loading your quilt well and advancing it well. Like, it really does make a difference. And so yeah, everybody please go follow Grandpa Quilts, follow Cutie Patterns, is it Cutie Patterns or Cutie Collection?
CutiePatterns.com.
CutiePatterns.com
Mhm.
and QuiltBasket.com. So follow them on all your social media. And I want to thank Kathy and Sarah for joining me today. And I'm so excited to see what's coming out. And have a great day. Thanks.
Thank you, Terry. It was so
Bye.
much fun.
Bye. Hey everybody, it's Terry Lucas. I am with the delightful, charming, incredibly cute Debby Brown. And we are going to talk a little bit more about cutie patterns. And when you see this, it'll be in the middle of another interview. So just pause, enjoy the two of us talking to each other, and then move on to the rest of the interview with Kathy and Sarah talking about cuties and cutie collections and cutie patterns and cute quilts, because it's just really cute. Hi, Debbie.
Hello, Terry. Thanks for having me here.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
So I am another designer of cutie quilts. I am absolutely in love with a fat eighth. I never thought that would be possible. Made it my life's work to figure out what you can do with fabric that is 9 by 22 inches.
What can you do?
You can do anything with it except make a 10-inch square.
That's a little, does that become slightly awkward at times?
There are times that we wish the fat eighth was a little larger, like, oh, this is a great design, not enough fabric. And then we have to go back and start over again. But it's really freeing in some ways to design within the constraints of 16 9 by 22 inch pieces of fabric.
How many Cutie Patterns have you personally designed?
Probably between 20 and 30,
That's a
maybe more. I
lot.
honestly don't know. We have about 80 some patterns in the collection, and I've done about a third of them.
And so you have the patterns, but you also have brochures and
We have
booklets now?
pamphlets and booklets. Yeah.
Pamphlets and booklets.
Because
And-
some with our cutie patterns being 8 inches, 8.5 inches square,
Mhm.
two sides on card and grayscale, sometimes you need more directions than that. Sometimes we just can't fit everything on that card. So we go to a 4-page booklet or a 4-page pamphlet or a larger booklet.
Mhm. Cool. And how did you get started designing with cuties?
It's Kathy's fault. So I don't know
love
what she
blaming
said in the
Kathy.
interview, but it's her fault.
Okay.
We were traveling to a quilt show, and she was talking about putting the fabric together in 16 fat eighths, and she had been doing that. But when we were at a quilt show, she said, "Oh, we need to come up with patterns." And so that's what we did for the rest of the quilt show. You know, we waited on customers and talked to people, but in the evenings and in the car time, we were like, cutie pattern, and oh, you can do triangles and squares and rectangles and this many blocks and that many blocks and strips and all of that. And I designed my very first pattern in the car at that quilt show, and it's been coming ever since.
Sweet. But you also do something else with cutie.
With
quilts,
cutie
don't you?
patterns, my specialty in the quilt world is machine quilting, which is how you and I got to know each other so well.
I know. I think I've been stalking you for years.
Yeah, we met online, and the first time you and I traveled together, we had only ever had lunch once, and I invited you to my mother-in-law's house.
Oh,
to
yes, you
stay.
did.
And she said, "Oh, how long have you known her?" I'm like, "Oh, I met her online." That that gave her great confidence in who she was having into her home. The joys of having family members who live near where Quilt Market is located.
Yes. Is Quilt Market going back to Pittsburgh?
I'm not sure.
Well, we'll have to figure that one out.
We'll look into that.
We'll look into that.
But with Cutie Patterns, people know me as a machine quilter, but they don't realize I'm also a pattern designer as well. So I am, and I love working with the Cutie Patterns. But I like to design the patterns. They're kind of, the patterns I design are not that hard to piece, but they're really fun to quilt. I take great pleasure in seeing what is the largest piece of fabric I can leave intact. And that is great for people who really like to show prints, like on this lemon bars quilt I have behind me.
I recognize that line, bits and pieces of that line.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Did I sell you some of that?
Yes, you did.
Yes. Okay.
So this is a gorgeous fabric, and it's so darling that I did not want to cut it into small pieces. I wanted to see how large I could keep the pieces. And with this, on a quilt that's designed like this, the fabric does the heavy lifting in the quilt. And if you want to quilt it, you can quilt it very simply. Mm-hmm. Anything that just holds the batting in place, some straight lines, an all over wiggle, whatever you want to stitch.
Ribbon candy?
It's the design. It's in every one of those little pink strips.
I'm shocked.
I know. It's my personal favorite design. It's the world's most perfect machine quilting design, and you can disagree with me, but then you'd be wrong.
I'm happy to be wrong.
If you were to make this quilt, however, with low volume fabrics or with solids, something featuring the weave or the texture, but it didn't have an overpowering print, that's a really fun place to quilt it. One of our patterns is called Quilter's Hearts, and we're developing classes that your local quilt shop can teach, can play for you on how to learn to machine quilt, because I love that people are piecing their quilts, and with these being beginner patterns, a lot of these we look at, people will look at these patterns and go, "That's pretty simple." Like, yes, it is, but we've done the math for you. We've figured out how to put it together. But they're great learning tools for beginner quilters. They're inexpensive because it's not a lot of fabric. They're not expensive patterns. It's not a lot of overage in the fabric, and they're achievable. But once that quilter, as you know, finishes their quilt top and holds it up, a flimsy, just the quilt top, they go, I'm done, but they're not done. So we like to take it further and find ways for you to learn to machine quilt it. So I do teach classes through your local quilt shop on how to quilt your cutie patterns.
Do you do both domestic machine and long arm, or do you specialize in one?
Well, I formerly specialized in long arm. I've been long arming for over 20 years and teaching long arm for almost that long. But in the cutie patterns, I actually specialize in home machine quilting because that's who pretty much starts, oh, I got a machine, I'm just learning to piece. They're not going to be long arming. Sometimes in my online classes, I do say, oh, but if you're long arming, you do it this way and offer both. But for the cuties, at this point, they're exclusively for domestic machines. And there are many things that can be learned in a domestic class that a long armer can apply.
Right. Because there are similarities between the two, but there are significant differences as
The
well.
biggest difference is the walking foot.
And how you visualize the space, or at least how I visualize space.
You're not working in stripes going down the quilt. So there are pros and cons to each way.
What's your favorite thread line? What's your favorite thread to use? Top bobbin, do you use the same thing? And how do you personally, I know this is going to be a lot of questions, one right after the other. How do you approach the quilting?
Well, to start with my favorite thread, you asked, my favorite thread is, ooh, shiny. I just pick whatever looks good on the quilt. As a teacher, however, well, I do have my own thread line, so it's not necessarily a fair question to ask, because if you had your own thread line, you'd use that too. As a teacher, though, I recommend using a sturdy mid-weight thread in the top. The one I most often reach for is Confetti or Tutti from Wonderful. Those are 50-weight cotton threads. I use that in the needle.
Is one a 2-ply and one a 3-ply?
One's a solid and one's a variegated.
Oh, got it. All right. That's the distinction.
And it's a nice, sturdy, multi-purpose thread. When I switch to the bobbin, though, I recommend using a lighter weight thread. I know using a different thread in the top and bottom, that's a no-no, right?
It's so radical. I can't believe you do that, Debbie.
Well, the reason I do that with domestic sewing machines specifically, but with all machines, is because it's thinner. I recommend an 80 weight, a 60 weight, 80 weight bobbin thread that's polyester, because you get more yardage on your bobbin and you don't have to change your bobbin as often.
And particularly on the long arm, but even on the domestic, that's significant, because changing in the middle of an awkward place is, I mean, it's not particularly fun.
Well, I think you and I both know as machine quilting teachers that we have students whose favorite part of quilting is the piecing, and they look at machine quilting as a punishment for finish, right? Like, oh, I have to finish quilting my quilt. And then there are people who love the texture of machine quilting, but I've never yet met any quilter who's ever said, my favorite part of quilting is changing the bobbin.
Me, oddly enough, me either.
Right. So the fewer times we have to do that on any machine, I use exclusively, my personal preference is Deco Bob, which is an 80 weight polyester from Wonderful, but there are other 60 weight, 80 weight, 70 weight in that range, the little thinner threads to get more yardage on your bobbin.
On a personal level, have you ever used micro quilter in the bobbin?
I have. And the reason that's not my go-to is simply because there are a few threads out there as top threads that 100-weight micro quilter is too thin for. And what it does is it goes in between the twists. You know, your thread has twists in it, and the bobbin thread is so thin it goes in between and can actually slice the thread.
Ooh, that's
slice
exciting.
your top thread.
Right, okay,
now that's not every thread. But I've made it just a general practice to not use 100 weight in the bobbin unless I'm using I mean, I can, but I simply reach for my 80 weight, and it makes tensioning the bobbin easier.
Oh, yes.
When you only use the same weight thread in the bobbin.
Yes, it does. drop that bobbin and see how far it goes. As long as it doesn't go flying across the room, I'm generally pretty good.
It's fun. You and I have had opposite experiences. I went from long arm quilting to home machine quilting.
Yes,
Because I was not a home machine quilter before I was a long arm quilter. I started as a long arm quilter.
but you were
and
quilting
then
on
went
the
home.
Sweet 16, so the skill set is similar to home machine.
Well, I went from long arm for
Right.
over 10 years to a stationary long arm
Right.
and then to a home machine. But I had all of my mastery in the long arm before I went to pushing fabric. And you went in completely the opposite way.
Right. And friends who are watching this, who know the two of us, I am so smit. You guys are gonna please pick your chins up off the floor now, because I love the Moxie, but I have decided that I want the Forte. I know, I saw that. I saw that look on your face, Debbie. Okay, so when you were quilting, so say you're quilting the cutie pattern behind you, the lemon bars. And not for nothing, I love the name of that quilt, and I really love that you use the pink in the background of that quilt, because it really makes that lemon yellow, the shades of lemon yellow pop. So how are you personally choosing thread, and how would you encourage a beginner quilter to choose thread?
Okay. I look at a pattern and decide what to quilt on it.
Mm-hmm.
I first decide, where does the ribbon candy go? And then I fill in the other spots. So if someone has a favorite pattern, if someone loves feathers, decide where the feathers go and then fill in the other parts.
All right, so you go with your go-to, which in your case is ribbon candy,
Mhm.
and then fill in things with feathers or straight lines or
Right.
something.
Now for this quilt, I wanted to use that mid-weight thread, and I'm actually going to look to check it to make sure I'm telling you the truth. So I quilted this. I didn't know, I know I only used one thread color on this quilt, but I can't remember which one. So I used 2D Sunny on this quilt. It's a variegated 3 shades of yellow. So I quilted the whole quilt in yellow, and it's custom quilted. So if with the lemon pattern in the upper border, and it's in all the borders, but in the upper border, I quilted some swirls in there. You're never going to see it. The design is going to override the quilting pattern. In all of the little thin strips, I quilted ribbon candy because it's the world's most perfect machine quilting design. In all of the bars, I quilted that same swirl pattern, just nothing you're ever going to see, just to hold it together and give it some texture. And then I quilted some pumpkin seeds in the corner. But as far as the thread goes, you can pull out your favorite thread, the thread you have enough of. Because I have looked at a thread on my shelf or on my wall and said, oh, this would be, I don't have enough. So plan B right away, because I need to quilt this quilt today. I don't have enough. I can't get it in time. I'll have to choose that. But I go by the thread weight that I want to use, because it's what I'm comfortable using, especially as a new quilter. I don't recommend. Now I can use all of the crazy threads out on the market like you do, but when a quilter is starting to quilt, I really recommend using that middle range thread. Somewhere around a 50, maybe a 40. Pick the color you like, or colors if you wanted to do this in yellow and pink. But no one has ever looked at this quilt and said, I can't believe you quilted yellow on that pink. It's horrible. And this quilt has traveled a lot.
It's a beautiful quilt. I mean, it's a beautiful quilt. And even from here, the yellow on the pink doesn't scream out at you. So
it doesn't even closer.
Yeah.
Even closer up, it doesn't.
Which so sometimes it's well worth going in a direction that seems unusual, but that's going to end up working just fine.
Mm-hmm. And that's trial and error. Oh, I didn't like that as much as I wanted to. I won't do that again. Or I really like that. I will do that again. It's the more you quilt, the more you learn. If this fabric wasn't so strong of a pattern, if these were solids, I may have chosen to put a different ruler design, a different interesting texture ruler design in each of the lemon bars to really show that off and give it some texture. So also when I look at the quilt, where's the quilting gonna show? The quilting doesn't show on any of these prints. It only shows on the pink. So I put ribbon candy and
Swirls.
the pumpkin seeds. I
Pumpkin seeds.
apologize. That word was right up there. Where is it? So I put the pumpkin seeds and the ribbon candy in the pink, and I put swirls and everything else because you weren't going to see it. That could have been meandering. It could have been loops. I just put something neutral in there, whatever your favorite background design is.
And when you're, okay, so you're custom quilting something, kind of going more with those things that you love with your experience. What are those patterns going to be? The quilting patterns.
Ruler work. I like a lot of diamonds. I like feathers and background quilting. There's not much in quilting I don't like. I used to say I really don't like hearts. I do like hearts in quilting now. So there's it's wide open. There's nothing wrong to put on a quilt except for blood. Don't put blood. Don't quilt in a manner that will get blood on your quilt. After that, you can do anything you want.
I've never done that.
No, me neither.
No, I've never stitched my finger either.
Nope, never done that either.
No,
nope, not at all. Never went right through it. Never.
Yeah, I think same finger for both of us. Actually, I've done it twice. This one and this one. This one was the tip of the finger, and this one was the side.
Yeah, that's what we say is wrong. Oh, I don't want to quilt this the wrong way. Good, don't bleed on it.
Yeah, you know what? I actually have to agree with you.
After that,
do you know how to take blood out?
You spit.
Which means you have to drink a lot.
You just add a little extra DNA to your quilt.
Okay. What's your favorite quilty pattern, and what was the way that you quilted it that just helped make it shine?
Well, a fun story, when I was going to Houston one year, and I think I met you there. I don't think we traveled there, but I think we both ended up in Houston staying together. I had quilted a 4-patch, and it was a 4-patch with an offset block and a 4-patch with an offset block. And I quilted it with continuous curve. And I did little continuous curve in the 4-patch and a bigger continuous curve in that offset block. And then I did ribbon candy inside of the larger continuous curve. I posted that online from the airport, turned my phone on, got on the plane. And when I landed in Houston, my phone blew up. You're like, oh my word, that quilt's amazing. Oh, it's fabulous. What do you do? Oh, I need this pattern. It's a 4-patch. No, but it's so great. I really need this pattern. It's a 4-patch. But I took a really humble 4-patch and quilted it in a way that made it like the cool thing to do then. People are like, oh, I need that. It's a 4-patch. And I started out because I quilted a scrap 4-patch quilt that way. And then I did a larger one, and it's a cutie pattern. It's called Irresistible in the cutie pattern line. And we ended up putting 4 or 5 sizes of quilt on that card because making a 4-patch doesn't require that many instructions. So we were able to put multiple sizes on that card and now I love how machine quilting can take a ho-hum, ordinary, basic 4-patch and make it exciting.
So that was absolutely amazing. And I think I remember that quilt, and not for nothing. I mean, it's that the quilting in and of itself was rather simple.
It was repetitive.
Yeah.
It was continuous curve in the small 4-patches and larger continuous curve with ribbon candy in it. And then I had that swirl pattern on the outer border. That was it.
Right. That was it. What is the most complex quilt that you have in the Cuties, and how did you quilt it?
The most complex quilt I've designed in the Cuties is Early Birds, and that's a booklet. No, it's a pamphlet. It's called Early Birds. And I designed that because the piecing design is based on a machine quilting design that I've that I've quilted. So I started quilting birds in my quilting, and then I figured out how to piece it. So I
that's
pieced
clever.
birds.
Mhm.
So I pieced birds and bird houses. And I remember piecing the test for this. I got stuck in a hotel room during a blizzard between events, and I pieced the whole quilt in the hotel room. It was great. But I quilted it very simply. I quilted it just with some background quilting because it didn't really need a lot of quilting. The
Okay.
piecing on it was so striking. Is pick your favorite background design.
Mhm. And other than ribbon candy, do you have other go-to background designs?
Meandering is a big favorite of mine. The big backgrounds I do are a swirl,
Mhm.
meandering, pebbles, and ribbon candy are the main ones. But I'm playing more with some different larger textures now. I mean, even though I've been machine quilting for over 20 years, I still, I may now visit something that other people started with. So walking foot designs as a background design, simple waves, line designs. I did a quilt that was free motion wiggles, just waving it across the quilt, and then a little bit of ribbon candy, and then a wiggle. And I had those patches of ribbon candy land in different places as we went row by row on the quilt.
Well, that must have been fun to quilt.
It really was. So I'm playing with things that are simpler and quicker, not because I want to get them done faster. It's just because that's what I've landed in right now, design wise, as liking it.
You tend to have the thread go into the background on a quilt, so like matching the background color, or are you a little bit bolder and daring and do, yeah, I know the answer to this, but I want you to tell the people, Debbie, tell the people.
It took me a long while to not match my quilt. So when I first started quilting, I would have quilted this in pink and yellow and black and cream and light yellow. I would have used maybe 6 or 7 colors in here because I wanted the thread to match exactly. I didn't want anyone to see the thread. Now I don't care. But it took a certain amount of confidence for me to be able to do that and say, sure, I'm going to put red thread on white fabric.
That's bold.
Right. So I will put anything on anything. And people will like it. They're like, oh, I really love that. I'm like, good. I used a purple on this entire green quilt. You're like, but it looks good. Yep, but it's purple thread.
And so you're not doing the significant color changes anymore.
I'm not, unless I'm doing a whole cloth where I'm the impact of the quilt is by changing the thread color.
I don't know anything about
You don't
that.
know anything about that. And what's so funny that we can see parallels in our quilting. We quilt so differently, no one would ever get them mixed up.
Yes. And I love that personally, I love that our journeys have kind of flipped. And I love that as a long arm quilter, you've been able to master the skills of home machine. And as a home machine quilter, I'm fine after 8.5 months with periods of time where I couldn't quilt because we had weather here, like heat or snow, ice. Like that was bizarre.
You didn't have a fun ice storm or anything.
No, that kind of knocked me out for
days.
And then there's electrical storms. Like last night I had to come running up here and unplug the long arm because, it's electric. But yeah, I love that our journeys have kind of flipped it. And it's really fascinating because coming to your house a number of times, I thought that I could flip that switch in my head and kind of do both. And it's taken a while, but it has been so fun.
It took a long while for me, but I concentrated it in a week. I quilted for about 40 hours one week on a domestic machine. But before that, I'm like, wait, how do I do this? And now I can go back and forth. If I'm in a show booth that has stationary long arms and long arms, I can go back and forth from one to the other without having to think about it. But I used to have to visualize, okay, all right, now I can do this. And
right.
Okay, now I can do this. Now I can go back and forth. But it was a hard transition. But I just worked it out in 40 hours in a week and got that switch turned in my head.
Right. And no matter whether you're doing this or you're doing this, the motion is the same. It's what's moving that
Right,
changes.
but my brain attacks it differently. I'm not very good with spatial, like packing things, knowing how much, knowing I'm one of those people on an airplane that you might want to look at, except I don't carry much. Like I will overestimate the size of the bag that will fit in the overhead luggage. I can't spatially figure that out. So spatially, I have a few difficulties like that. And it was just a matter of burning that in and just getting enough time on it that my brain knew where to go.
Right, because on a home sewing machine, you can go anywhere, where on a long arm you are committed to that. Although with some work you can change the position of the quilt, which is pretty fascinating. That was eye-opening to me in the middle of something I was doing.
Yeah, so I highly recommend people that are learning to either machine quilt on a home machine or machine quilt on a long arm machine, go to the quilt shop where they're buying their cutie patterns and ask them if they have classes on how to quilt, whether they're a long arm shop, a domestic shop, or something in the middle, or both. Can you teach classes? We know how hard it is for brick and mortar stores to be experts at everything.
Right. Yes, it is.
Because they have the business sense, the color sense, the retail, and then to be an expert and have an expert in your shop of every single technique someone wants to learn. So we wanted to bring that educational component to it.
Right.
And that is something that the pandemic slowed us down a little bit. Who knew? But we are looking to fill some educational gaps so that your local quilt shop can get educational content from us and instantly have an expert in their store. Right now, it has to be done live, but hopefully we'll be able to have them purchase packages.
Are you doing YouTube classes?
No, these are online classes through the store currently.
Okay.
Live, and then they will. I have we have a Cutie Pattern YouTube channel. I have my own YouTube channel, etc. But these classes will not be done that way. These will be classes that you can take at the quilt shop.
Perfect. And what is your next class, public class? Not where people are there, but that you're teaching outside?
November 5th, I believe. Good thing I was just working on my schedule. I think I'm going to be teaching North Country quilts on November 5th and 6th all day, and they are long arm classes. And that is at North Country Quilts in New Hampshire. It's upstate New Hampshire.
Nice. That sounds like fun. What kind of things are you covering in that class?
There are 4 classes, and go calendar. I will be talking about long arm tools, how to quilt round designs. That's a lot of different techniques for getting round designs on your quilt. Things you can do with a long arm that you wouldn't expect.
Oh, like?
Applique.
Okay.
And that class is a Star Wars themed class.
Does somebody like Star Wars?
No. No one in my home does. I do not have a living room totally decorated in Star Wars or anything. And then I'm teaching a class about straight lines. And I think the next place I'm quilting is So You Can Quilt in Michigan. And that will be later in November.
Great. All right, so back to the quilting for a second. I'm guessing, actually, again, I kind of know the answer to this, but I'm asking anyway. Do you do ruler work on the cuties on your home sewing machine?
That's what this is. The pumpkin seeds were done with a ruler. I've done clamshells. Anything I could do on the long arm, I can do on a domestic machine. You just have to think about it a little differently.
Right.
And I'm honestly quilting most of my quilts on a domestic machine just because that's where the demand for education is right now.
Right.
With our business. So when this was quilted on my home sewing machine, most quilts I've shown in all of this year were quilted in the last 2 years were quilted on my home sewing machine.
And do you have any favorite rulers?
I do. Now, I have contracted with Handy Quilter as an educator for 15 years. So I have most experience with their rulers. Their rulers are long arm rulers, so they're 1/4 inch thick, and they will work on a high shank machine, a high shank home machine. They will not work on a low shank home machine. So if you have a low shank home machine, I apologize that these specific rulers are not available to you. But they have one that's called a multi-clamshell, and it's 4 different clamshells in 4 different directions. And I can do some really fun things with that.
Yes.
And it's amazing what you can do with just a straight ruler. Beyond that, well, there's a straight ruler called the mini scallop because it scallops on one side, but it has stoppers at the end so that you don't quilt too far.
Oh,
so that
interesting.
as you're quilting, you don't go whoosh and quilt off the end of the ruler. It has stoppers. And then after that, it's designs rulers that are interior. So it's a circle that you quilt inside of. I can do some really fun things with that. Those are kind of where my passion's at right now.
What's the next quilt that you're quilting?
The current quilt I'm quilting is called Framed Star, and I'm using a really fun pink thread on it. It's called Pansy, which is pink, lavender, and peach variegated. And I use that on probably half of my quilts. You'd be surprised how many quilts that looks good on, not just pink ones. And that is a color block quilt, which is an online quilt along that I'm doing. It's a free quilt along for 2021, and I will be doing it again next year. So I'm quilting some really fun feathers on there. I'm using some stencils. There will be ribbon candy. It's pretty fun.
If memory serves, you have a ribbon candy stencil?
I have 2 ribbon candy stencils. Yep.
Okay.
All different sizes.
Right. Okay. Perfect. And final question. What kind of cake do you like?
Oh, I don't care for cake. Thank you.
Liar. My hand hurts.
Chocolate cake with layers, layers and frosting. I'm very particular about my chocolate cake. I have been known at a restaurant while traveling when the wait staff comes and say, "Can we tell you about our specials?" I will reply, "No, you can tell me about your cake," because I need to know how to plan my meal. If they have good cake, I'll have salad. If they don't have cake, then I'll eat a bigger meal. But cake has to be chocolate and layers of frosting. And I'm a very generous soul. Again, I have a free quilt along, lots of free content, but I do not share my cake. And friends have tried to share my cake to their peril and might have gotten a fork in the back of the hand, Terry.
Yeah.
We just call you Lefty now.
Yeah. Well, and thank goodness I can use my left hand. I mean, right? Because
yeah, you try to take my cake, you're losing that hand. That's I will share anything but my cake.
Okay. Thank you, Debbie, for coming this afternoon. It has been an absolute joy talking with you about how to quilt cuties and how to quilt and domestic machine and long arm machine and rulers and thread and all that kind of fun stuff.
Well, thanks for what you're doing and bringing Quilt Market out to the quilters since we didn't have one this year.
I know that still makes me sad.
It does, but we can do this. Thank you for the work that you're doing to get this information out to people and letting us reach them while we're all still socially distancing.
Yes.
Happy quilting.
Happy quilting.